Dave, you're up first. Let's show you the list of the guys that we are avoiding based on your suggestions. So a couple of running backs here: James Conner, Antonio Gibson, Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen at the wide receiver spot, and Gerald Everett at tight end. So I said this when we were talking about the starts because Heath has Gibson as a start. You have Gibson as a sit. So it's your list. You're up first. Why should we avoid Antonio Gibson against the Eagles?
In PPR, full PPR, he actually makes the cut as the top 24 running back for me, so maybe a low-end starter in that format only, but we saw last week what happens when he doesn't catch a touchdown and when he doesn't get a lot of targets. It's ugly, and he's taking on a Philadelphia defense. You know that they're good all the way around. Opposing running backs are averaging, this is collectively, 6.5 targets per game against Philly, and they're not doing a ton with them. Philly ranks top 5 in yards per catch, yards after catch per reception allowed to running backs, below a league average 75% catch rate. In 4 career games against the Eagles, Gibson's never had more than 6 grabs, never had more than 39 yards receiving. I am nervous that he's going to leave us hanging again.
Man, this Eagles defense is just not the same against the run without Jordan Davis. 5.5 yards per carry over the last 3 weeks. Ezekiel Elliott averaged almost 6 yards per carry against them. Even Najee Harris averaged 4 yards per carry against them. You're going to see 7 to 10 carries for Gibson in this game. That should be 40 yards right there. The last time these two teams played, J.D. McKissic and Antonio Gibson combined for 10 targets, caught 7 of those passes. He's a must start for me in full PPR.
The thing that I do like about this game by comparison to last game where it was a little bit more back and forth for Washington, I'm expecting them to be way behind in this game. And so I think they have no choice but to throw the ball to him, and hopefully he's involved in the passing game. So I do think that Gibson is worth starting in all formats. And again, like you said, he scored in that week 2 matchup. So a little bit different scenario because Brian Robinson wasn't part of the team, but I think Gibson is worth trusting based on this scenario and how this game should unfold. Let's talk about James Conner a little bit, Dave, because last week he came back, had 5 catches, so I think a lot of people hoping that'll be involved in the passing game, but the rushing production has not been there, and the touchdowns have not been there as well.
And I think he will stay involved in the passing game. Yet another running back that I'll rank as a top 24 guy, but I don't feel good about it. I really think he's more of like a flex play than anything else. He was physical last week. He looked like the James Conner that we know, which means he also wasn't elusive, gets caught from behind, et cetera, taking on the Rams defense. 7th in fewest fantasy points allowed to running backs. Only 3 running backs have run for a touchdown against them. That's what you're hoping for when you start James Conner, is that he finds a way to score. You can count on him to get 3 or 4 catches. 5, that seems like a little much. And on top of it, if Kyler Murray is out, it makes it a lot easier for the Rams to focus on stopping him in the run game because they don't have to worry about the quarterback using his legs.
I'm sure we will all change our rankings dramatically if there is no Kyler Murray there. In terms of Deontay Johnson, so you got no Chase Claypool now, taking on a defense here for the Saints that no Marshawn Lattimore potentially as well, and it's been very up and down against opposing receivers.
I got to see it to believe it, Jamie, because he's been terrible ever since Kenny Pickett became the quarterback. His catch rate is 55%. 8 yards per catch. Is this the same Deontay Johnson that we knew from last year? I don't think it's even close. George Pickens has been better. Better metrics, better efficiency, better pizza, everything when it comes versus Deontay Johnson. The Saints have allowed only 4 100-yard receivers on the season. Of the 4, 3 had 10-plus targets. At least average at least 14.7 yards per catch. Only 2 other receivers have had between 75 and 99 yards. I think their pass defense is okay. It's their run defense that I'm actually worried about in this game. Johnson's got to find the end zone before I start him again.
How do you feel this is going to go, Heath, without Claypool there, just in terms of the receiving core?
I don't know that Deontay Johnson's going to get any more efficient. The inefficiency has been a problem his entire career, but I do think he's going to see double-digit targets pretty much every week, and he's probably going to catch 6 of them most weeks for somewhere around 60 yards. He's going to be in that 12 fantasy point range, and if he scores a touchdown, he's going to be a top 20 guy.
It's a big if, though. He hasn't done that once this season, so we'll see if he's able to find the end zone for the first time in week number 10. Imagine saying that again when the season started. Heath, the sits for you. A lot of big-name guys on this list, so no Dak Prescott. No Najee Harris, DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton, and Tyler Higbee. Let's start with the quarterback there because Prescott is coming off of his best fantasy game. Now he's only played 3 games, but did get you 27 fantasy points. He's been very good in his career coming off of a bye week, and this Packers defense is now down his best pass rusher, Rashawn Gary. So why are you avoiding Dak Prescott?
I'm avoiding Dak Prescott because this team's philosophical offensive change while he was out has carried over since he's come back. Just 25 and 27 pass attempts in his last 2 games. Over the course of his career, especially the last 4 seasons, he's averaged somewhere between 0.6 and 0.66 fantasy points per pass attempt. That means he needs north of 30 pass attempts to score 20 fantasy points. I have no confidence he's going to throw the ball 30 times against a Packers team that, even without Gary, is much worse against the run. So you've got a team that wants to run, playing a team that allows you to run and can't score. I don't see Dak throwing that many passes in this game.
Yeah, I get that. And the thing that I would just counter back with is that I think he's got a chance to be one of those safe quarterbacks where you can just sign him up for 20 to 24 fantasy points right away. He'll run a little bit. We saw that in his last game.
34 yards. Yeah.
And a touchdown, too. So I don't know if I can count on the touchdown. But the rushing yards aren't bad. I think he's a good middle-of-the-pack type of a starter, given the way that quarterbacks have been this year.
And you say philosophically, I do think, though, we talked about this prior to the game against the Bears, they got to get him going. And so it may not be 35-plus attempts, it may not be 40-plus attempts, but I can't see them going from 27 to 30, which maybe pushes up a little bit if the Packers do show up. And you also have the situation where the 27 attempts, that was with Tony Pollard replacing Ezekiel, only 14 carries. Now, I know they'll use some other backups there to run the ball a little bit, but are they going to get 35-plus attempts from the ground attack without Zeke there? So it could be, okay, we're still going to throw, maybe not again, the high volume, but I still think Dak is okay, but I understand your concern there. Najee Harris, so give me the breakdown of the Steelers' backfield here, because we're hearing what Mike Tomlin is saying, that Jalen Warren's going to get more work, but how much at the expense of Najee that you just can't start him?
Well, I mean, just to be clear, even when Najee's getting all the touches, he's not been very good. The efficiency's been absolutely awful, and I don't think they're going to be efficient running the ball in this game. There's just more risk now. I think he has top 20 upside if he gets 15 touches, but I would rank him as a high-end flex. I would rank Warren as a low-end flex. I still prefer Harris. I also think you have to accept the risk that Warren gets a drive in the second quarter, looks like he's looked most of the season, and we don't see Najee Harris again the rest of the game.
So for you, it would be avoid both of them?
I would like to not start either one.
Okay, understandably so. We'll see how things go there. It's a very, very up and down situation for the Steelers' backfield. Why DK Metcalf as a sit?
He's really just been touchdowns over the last month. He does not have more than 55 yards in a game since week 5. We've talked about how Chris Godwin struggled and only gives you catches, doesn't produce any yards. Chris Godwin is averaging more yards per game this season than DK Metcalf is. Tyler Lockett's the number 1 wide receiver on that team. I don't think the Seahawks have a great offensive day. I think he's a touchdown or bust number 3.
I'm expecting a shootout, so that's why I still have a lot of faith in DK Metcalf, and I do think he's going to score because Geno Smith, I think, is going to have a big game as well. All right, sits for me for week number 10. I got Justin Herbert. Just don't trust him without his guys there. If Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are out, A.J. Dillon, I don't care if he starts or if he doesn't start. Can't trust him at this point anymore. Devin Singletary, Gabe Davis, whether Josh Allen plays or not, I would avoid both those guys. And Michael Pittman, the situation is there. With Sam Ehlinger, just don't want to trust Pittman based on what we've seen. In terms of Herbert, so last week we saw him 40 pass attempts against the Atlanta Falcons that were down all of the guys in their secondary that matter. And he still stunk. 245 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He's been 16 fantasy points or less in 3 of his last 4 games, and now he's taking on a 49ers defense that is absolutely going to obliterate him if they get to him, which their offensive line has been bad. So I think it's going to be a bad day for Herbert. That's why I would avoid him. Barely a top 12 starter. I would go with Jimmy Garoppolo over him. In terms of Gabe Davis and the Bills situation, look, we're going to keep an eye on what's going on there with Josh Allen, but Davis has not been producing with a healthy Allen. Now you have maybe an unhealthy Allen or Case Keenum. No thank you against the Vikings, even though the secondary is not very good. And Michael Pittman, last time he scored a touchdown, same time last time Jonathan Taylor scored a touchdown. Week 1. It's been that long since we've seen Pittman find the end zone. I don't think Sam Ehlinger with the great Jeff Saturday is going to all of a sudden make things great for Michael Pittman. So a number 3 receiver, start him in 3 receiver leagues, but in 2 receiver leagues, should be hands off of Michael Pittman for this week.